Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. We're near the end of 2015, and as we do every year about this time, we start looking at the agenda for the state legislature, which is going to convene next month, and they've got a real full agenda. So we're probably only going to want to be able to discuss a couple of subjects, but we'll find out what the list looks like, and they got plenty to do. And of course, the guy that always has the answers is our own Representative Judd Matheny. So he's joined us again this morning. Judd, thanks. And
glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay. And you are now serving how many terms?
I'm in my second half of my 7th term, 14th year.
7th term.
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Very good. So 7-2, that's 14, 15 years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good. All right. So the legislature begins when?
Second week of January.
Second week of January.
And we'll hit the ground running pretty hard. We have our organizational session every other year, and we're already organized and ready to work, so we'll start committees the very first day when we begin this time, second week of January.
Okay. And I know you got a full agenda, so you're always pushing to keep the session short. Are you going to be driving that again this year? Or?
Well, it's not me pushing that, it's the speaker. And I think yes, especially being an election year and knowing what I know from the past 2 years, I think we'll probably get out sometime in April. So we'll push it pretty quick.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Election year, yeah, going to be a big one.
It will be a big one.
Yeah.
It will be a big one.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe we'll find out whether you got a fix on the national session or not, like our friend Trump. Well, let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and find out what the legislature's up to.
Hi, this is Terry Stroop with Stroop's Accurate Refrigeration. We'd like to take this time to thank everybody who put their trust in us this past year to service their heating and cooling needs. We continue to offer the best available HVAC equipment out there with the Train equipment and geothermal heat pumps. We'd like for everybody to focus on the reason for this time of the year for this season.
As Jesus warms your heart, thank you for allowing Stroops to warm your homes. To all of you we wish
Merry Christmas!
All I have to do to think about what I was physically before and what I am now, and I don't ever want to go back to that original situation.
The overall mission of the rehab team is always what is best for the patient and how we can facilitate maximum potential from every resident.
Well, the most important thing to me is that I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do, you know.
Everyday Miracles, Life Care Center of Tullahoma.
What's a Tennessee vacation? It starts off like any road trip, and then, boom, adventure and thrills everywhere you look, which happens to be some of the most beautiful scenery in the country. Music here, history there, and all kinds of green in between. Come relax and unwind, or bring the crowd for some stargazing, or stargazing. Whatever you do, come hungry and expect an awesome soundtrack. It's all right here in Tennessee. We're playing your song. For a free vacation guide, visit tnvacation.com.
We're with you folks today to talk about what's cooking with the Tennessee legislature, which convenes next month, and our own Representative Judd Matheny is here to tell us what it's all about. So Judd, what do you, well, first of all, give us a sort of a list of the agenda items, and then what the first maybe 2 or 3 priorities are.
Absolutely. Well, you'll see education issues again this year, especially with the major change in the federal law that we just had. We'll be tweaking it down here as the new No Child Left Behind rewrite applies to Tennessee. As the exodus of Common Core continues and our new curriculums and assessments are promulgated by Tennesseans, you'll see ratification of those by the Tennessee General Assembly. You'll see a lot of transportation issues dealing with funding and long-term infrastructure needs and strategic planning. I don't think you'll see a gas tax passed this year, but you'll see a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of cases that still need to be proven to the individual members that the money is going to be used correctly and how it's going to be collected, whether it's going to be indexed and where it's going to, is it all going to go to the federal government first and come back down to us, or is there going to be a hybrid plan? Refugee resettlement is something we're going to have to talk about quite a bit on this show, our immigration issues, and we'll get deep into that, I'm sure. States' rights issues are a huge thing that I'm involved in, and the bilateral session of Congress that we're planning on, hopefully to hold in February of this year, will be the nation's first. It's where our House of Representatives will meet with our U.S. House delegates, and we'll have a joint political session on what we can do in Tennessee to help them and what they can do in Washington to help us, and hopefully let the public see that the two bodies of government are acting together in unison on issues rather than insulated from each other.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's the biggest cat herd I've ever tried to contain, but I think our federal officials, it would behoove them to come down and meet with the state officials at their invite, and it's just the courteous thing to do, and I think Tennesseans will respect it. And I know that several of our congressmen want to run for governor, and I think if any of them want to run for governor, they'll delete their opportunity to do that if they refuse to meet with the General Assembly. So we've still got some time and some planning we're putting together. But states' rights issues, once again, I'm going to be highly focused on, trying to raise the awareness of just how dependent we are on the federal government for our day-to-day governing activities. And I want to begin the process of weaning ourselves off of that. And it's not that I'm an advocate for less money at this time, but it's more control of the money that's out there. And right now, about 60% of our budget is directly and indirectly reliant on federal funding, and that definitely needs to fall below 50%. The state needs to be its own controlling factor. That's the way our country was designed. The state is supposed to be the fulcrum of power. The state enables the local governments to exist. The state enables the federal governments to exist. And the federal government has usurped those check and balance parameters, and we've got to bring it back into line. We can't do it by ourselves, but this is a start, and many other states are beginning to do this too. And the General Assembly has woken up to this. 3 years ago, I attempted a bilateral session and got lackluster support from my colleagues. This year, back in September, I received a unanimous vote from my colleagues, the entire House, to pursue this. So I have the authority to do it, and hope it'll be a good event.
Okay. All right. Well, what do you want to talk about first? What's your number one priority?
Well, folks know that I've been involved in the refugee issue for a long time, refugee resettlement issue. My committee first held hearings about 3 years ago on just exactly what the refugee program was, how it was funded, who was funding it, what the parameters of it were, and we learned very quickly that the state has zero control over the refugee resettlement program at this time. The state, not even through an executive order, but simply through a letter, Governor Bredesen gave up the ability for the state of Tennessee to monitor its own refugee resettlement program and gave it to the federal government entirely, who then subcontracted with private entities. And there are 5 private entities in the state now that resettle refugees for profit. And it's strictly almost a financial issue. Now, you'll hear establishment Democrats and Republicans both saying this is not a financial issue, it's a compassion issue. But it's not. It's all about money and who's going to make money by settling refugees. Bottom line is, it's a states' rights issue. The state needs to be in control of who's going to enter its borders and where they're going to live and how much money is going to be used, if it's taxpayer money, to support those individuals. Right now, we don't have that.
Yeah, let's make sure we understand that. The state, as of now, you don't have anything to say about who comes or how many.
That's correct.
It's whatever the feds give you, you don't find out till after the fact.
That's correct. And the governor we discovered this 3 years ago in my hearing, but the governor discovered it last week when he attempted to put join a group of governors. We had invited the governor to come to our hearing 3 years ago, but he could have saved himself, I think, some national embarrassment by doing what he did last week. But the bottom line is, we've known for some time, and we've been trying to react in the General Assembly, that this takes leadership in order to recapture this program. And the governor's going to have to help us wrestle this to the ground. He has the negotiating ability to bring this to the table and to talk about it. The General Assembly, it's questionable. The Attorney General just ruled that we had no legal authority to change the federal program through the General Assembly. However, you'll still see several pieces of legislation that attempt to take it back, or to limit the number of refugees, or to at least increase the accountability of the information that is coming to the General Assembly. At the very least, we'd like to know how many refugees are coming here and where they're going and how much it's going to cost before they get here, instead of 3 months after the fact, which is the data that's available now. So, and then there's
that's really an interesting issue from a state versus federal standpoint. I can understand why you would like to know what's going on in the state, but the feds have the foreign relations program, so how are you going to split this? What do you want to leave up to them?
Well, once again, this is a perfect topic for the bilateral session of Congress that I mentioned earlier. These are the types of things we need to talk about. The state and the federal government need to engage each other openly and discuss these. It's not about the federal government doing something and forcing the states to do it. The states will support a federal government that is in line with the need of the states. But if the federal government's trying to force something on the states and not giving them an option to be involved in the decision-making process, which is exactly what's happening right now, then you're going to see the type of divide that you see. The exercise we're trying to hold in Tennessee is to bridge that divide. Unfortunately, President Obama has just told us to deal with it, and he's going to send them here anyway. And
let's talk about what your 2 or 3 major concerns are on this issue,
okay,
on the refugee problem in general. What are you really worried about?
The number one thing is we have Tennesseans here that are in desperate need of all kinds of assistance, from developmental disabilities to unemployment to disability. Funds that the federal government spends or the state of Tennessee spends on importing new individuals to this state should first be used for domestic purposes. That's the bottom line. That's one. Number two, we have a right to know who's in our community.
Number one is a money issue.
Well, we have a right to know who is in our community. We have a right to know their background and their health status if they're going to be brought in here as a new individual. The federal government no longer tests for some major infectious diseases, to include HIV, so those individuals are now allowed, HIV positive individuals are now allowed to settle in very rural towns and very rural areas in our state. Also, the issue of secondary migration. We may only get 2,000 or 3,000 refugees a year into Tennessee, but Nashville has become a sanctuary city in violation of federal law in some cases and state law, which is a whole other issue that we're going to have to deal with this General Assembly. But Nashville is attracting refugees from all over the country that are settled in other states to come here and assimilate in Tennessee with their refugees of like mind. So Tennessee is getting hit a little bit harder than other states. The federal government only pays for about 8 months of support for a refugee. The vast majority of these refugees, excuse me, are illiterate in their own language. So it takes a lot of time for them to come here and properly assimilate into the schools, get jobs, training, skills, and there's just not enough incentive for them to follow our Constitution and assimilate with our society. That's a big issue. The terrorism cases that we've seen around the country, 99.9% of them can be traced directly back to this problem of open borders, lax immigration, lax vetting of our refugees.
Well, let's talk about that a minute, because out of the terrorism acts that we've had over the last several years, I don't recall how many of them are attributed to refugees, as opposed to the homegrown kind of jihadists that we're growing more and more of. So
the worst ones have been attributed, and some of the worst planning have been attributed to individuals in the refugee program. Some of them are homegrown. You're absolutely right. We have a major problem brewing in this country, and we have to get a hold of it. And the only way to get a hold of it is for the states to stand up to the federal government and say we must correct our immigration policy. Europe is already falling apart at the seams. I've personally been there. I've seen it. Watch the news now, see what's happening in Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Belgium. In fact, where they caught the terrorism ringleader for the Paris attacks, I've been in the very neighborhood in Belgium where they caught him.
Yeah.
And I was accosted in that neighborhood because I was told I wasn't welcome because it was now part of Morocco. And this was in 2011. So that's how far ahead Europe is of us. And the same thing is beginning to happen here. We're seeing some enclaves that are not hospitable to traditional American values and following our Constitution.
Okay, with that, we're going to have to interrupt a minute, folks, and take a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Just in time for Christmas, and for the first time in more than a decade, Taylor's Leatherware in Tullahoma, Tennessee is opening its doors to the public. From December 1st to the 19th, come and check out our inventory of men and women's leather jackets and genuine leather handbags from $35 to $200. Motorcycle jackets, police duty jackets, dress coats, and bomber jackets, hundreds of coats in all sizes. The sale begins Tuesday, December the 1st from 9 to 5, open every day except for Sunday until December the 19th. Find us at 1205 Five Points Road, just around the corner from Motlow College.
It's time for every family and business in Tullahoma to go green and recycle. Tullahoma Public Works makes it simple and easy to recycle. Just place your recyclable materials, paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard beside your garbage container on the same day your garbage is picked up. Your recycled materials don't have to be in a fancy container. Recycling is not only the right thing to do, it makes sense. Recycling pays. Paying to bury our garbage costs each of us. Please do your part. Let's go green, Tullahoma, and recycle.
It's your trademark. That's something special everyone knows and remembers. It's your thing. It's made holidays special for decades and summers unforgettable for the entire neighborhood. It's made everyone laugh every single time. Don't let illness or injury keep you from doing your thing. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live well.
I'm meteorologist Leland Statham from the News Channel 5 Weather Center. Look to Jim Fuller and crew for local news night here on Channel 6.
We're talking today, folks, with Representative Judd Matheny about the upcoming legislative session, which starts the middle of January, and they got an awful lot on their plate. We've been talking about the refugee issue. I don't know whether there's some there's no way, I guess, to sort of summarize that. So,
well, the only way to summarize it is to let folks know that your state is paying attention to the issue. The legislature has been awoken, and we're dealing with every potential avenue we can, from joining with other states to an injunction or a lawsuit to trying to do something legislative.
Your main thrust is to sort of get some authority to deal with
think we have to exhaust,
instead of just having the Fed dump it on you.
Yes, sir, and we have to exhaust the legislative process before we can do anything else, and this session will do that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another subject or two, folks. We could spend the whole time on this one, but one that keeps cropping up year after year, transport, the shortage of money, and what's happening to the roads and bridges, and in some cases we're running into even hazard problems, you know, the bridges are going to start collapsing. But where does that stand? What are you going to do about transportation
Well,
this year?
there's a lot of unanswered questions that the General Assembly is seeking first, from Department of Transportation, from Department of Finance and Administration, and from the Governor's office, who is pushing transportation increases. It's very easy to say we need more money and ask for more money. What's difficult is for them to make the case on how much money we need, how we're going to collect it, and making sure that the policies of the state are going to be sound enough that the money's spent wisely. What we don't want to do is continue to enter into programs such as an expanded TennCare, which is one of the main reasons our transportation program is broke now, is during the last decade, over $2 billion of money was redirected to the TennCare fund. Much of that was the TDOT reserves and out of operating general funds from TDOT.
You have taken money from TDOT.
Oh, absolutely, from
to fund
TennCare, yes.
Yeah.
From 2004 to 2008, we rated it all. Governor Bredesen took it all, and that's why we even lost the refugee program, because it was costing us $345,000. But TennCare sucked that money up, and until we finally got control of TennCare, it literally exhausted all the federal programs.
Well, that money is supposed to be dedicated. I mean, a gasoline tax.
Agreed.
I thought in the beginning that was supposed to be devoted to roads.
It is supposed to be devoted. And once again, the public doesn't trust government enough at this time to give it all this extra money. So the government has to make that case to the General Assembly. The General Assembly works for the people of Tennessee. So if the people of Tennessee want a tax increase, they'll let their General Assembly members know that, and their General Assembly members.
Well, nobody wants a tax increase, Judd.
Well,
that ain't gonna
that's
happen.
not necessarily true. If the case is made for it, I think everybody would go for it. But right now, the case can't be made for it. Right now, there's not enough trust in government. You have conflicting reports. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce just came out and ranked Tennessee as one of the best states in the country for its road program. And that's true. We still have the best road program. Strategically, we want to make sure we keep it sound. There's a lot of funds that have been diverted from TDOT. There's a lot of surplus revenues that we have right now. We could release $400 or $500 million today to critical road projects and still have $400 or $500 million in discretionary surplus to go into next session.
We just need to put back the money that's been borrowed.
At the very least.
Illegally,
At the very least. So
that'd be a start.
In the parity on transportation funding, we need to make sure if you drive an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle or a flex fuel vehicle or a straight gasoline burner, are you paying the same amount as somebody else to use the public roads? There's talk of maybe if you own an electric vehicle, you'd pay a larger fee when you got your tags every year, and then that fee would go to the transportation fund since you're not buying gasoline. All these questions need to be answered, especially if Tennessee wants to lead the nation in putting electric cars on the road. Every electric car we put on the road takes away from transportation funding.
I agree. I kind of look at it as a user fee. Whoever's using the roads should be paying for it.
And are we going to charge? Is it going to be a price per gallon tax, or is it going to be a price per dollar? And so that's going to, if gas goes to $5 a gallon and it's per dollar, what's that going to do to revenue? If gas goes to $5 a gallon again and the tax is per gallon, what's that going to do to revenue? All these things need to be answered. I think the cart is squarely put before the horse if you say just give us more money and let us go about our work. That might have worked in the past, but the General Assembly of today is very hesitant about joining in any more commitments with any more bureaucracies, whether they be state or federal, until the case is made that this is the best way to do it and this is how it's going to be done. And these are the clawback provisions that are in place so that if we don't do what we said, that the General Assembly can wrestle the program back and get something done. We've done the same thing in education. We'll have to do it with transportation. We did it in judicial redistricting. Most recently, we stopped the programs in place while they were being implemented, and we slowed things down in order to get the proper due diligence. That's what's happening with the gasoline tax. What I call the establishment portion of the Republican Party just tried to push out an increase in gas tax, Corker on the federal level and Haslam on the state level, and it's just a non-starter.
Well, the basic rub there seems to be that we don't seem to be able to make a plan. Everybody's on 2-year terms. They're all running for re-election. Anybody running for re-election don't want to talk about a tax increase.
I think it's deeper than that. I work with a lot of people, myself included, that will make principled decisions over political ramifications. I think we have a serious lack of leadership in this state. Our U.S. senators, our governor, now they do plenty of good things, but on these issues they show a distinct lack of leadership, and they show a distinct lack of intuition on what the average person needs and wants, and the lack of government, the lack of confidence that they have in their ability to do their job. The
question of the so-called gasoline tax, my user fee, the rub is that we've just been making temporary fixes for the last 25 years. There's been no overall plan and no way to have the revenue keep flowing.
The federal government, Tom, is doing the same thing. The federal government is kicking the can down the road, and that's forcing us to do the same thing. And once again, this is another reason for the bilateral session of Congress, is to let citizens know that the state legislature understands the dynamics of the problem, and that they have properly telegraphed those dynamics to our federal delegation, and that our federal delegation was sitting in the same room with the media and the public and understands these things. So when they go to Washington and they're making command decisions in committees, they're going to be able to make the decisions that best reflect the genuine needs of the Tennessee General Assembly right then, right there. And there's things that we can do for Washington also that they can't or won't do. And once again, this is a reason we need to get together and discuss things. To have two separate governing bodies operating in isolation from each other with totally separate budgets and in many cases different agendas is no longer going to work. So this bilateral session is a way to begin to reel that in. And we need to have these conversations that are healthy for everybody and better communication between the state and the federal government. I just don't see any negative to that.
Okay. Well, folks, you'll remember Judd's been talking about this joint session, the collaboration between the state and the feds, if you want. He's been talking about that for years, and of course, the feds don't want to give up anything, so they're not too anxious to talk to him. He's a big states writer, and we're fortunate in that regard. Well, we've run out of time, folks. We're going to have to take a short commercial break and wrap up.
The Kia Summers on Us sales event is going on right now at Russell Barnett Kia of Tullahoma. Let me tell you about this event. Purchase a new Kia Sedona, Kia Optima, Kia Forte, and receive 0% financing up to 66 months and your first 3 payments for free. For a limited time only, no strings attached. With America's best warranty, the 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, Kia is the power to surprise. The Kia Summers on Us sales event going on right now. Why buy anywhere else?
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We're back, folks, and we've been talking today with Representative Judd Matheny. The legislature in Tennessee is scheduled to begin in the middle of January, so we've been trying to find out what they're up to, and of course they have a very full plate. Judd, what you got a quick 1 minute or plus message for the folks?
I do. I'd like to just tell everybody that you often hear me talk about the negatives in state government. I believe my job is to spend more time fixing the negative things in government than it is to just promote the positives. But I do need to promote the positives, which are many in this state. And our state is very strong financially. However, that financial strength will not translate to continued strength if the federal government loses value in its currency, or faith and confidence in the federal government continues to decline. So Tennessee is strong financially. We need to be proud of that. You live in the best state in the union. We all live here by choice. Be proud of Tennessee. Tennessee is a leader in many things, in business community, in unemployment issues. We're very, very strong. It's just pay attention to what's going on in your federal government. Know that there are many good things. Also, there'll be a Coffee County Day on the Hill this year. We're going to have a Warren County Day on the Hill. We'll encourage citizens to come up and spend some time with us in session, in committees. And anybody listening to me that would like to come up and spend some time just simply needs to contact my office, and I'll be glad to have them tag along with me. Okay. Just bring your running shoes.
Well, that, folks, thanks, Judd, for coming on. I think we're probably going to need one more session before the legislature starts. So thank you for inviting us into your parlor, folks, and we'll see you next time. And meanwhile, have a Merry Christmas.